Cool. Thank you, Krim. Okay, so we are live. Okay, so first meeting of the new year on the dev sync. Not much has happened on my side because I was away from my computer for a while. I did, although, make a bunch of progress on the recurrent transfers. Did some more testing. Everything is now it's replay friendly now, which is good. And also started working on the on some improvements regarding the account ID type over using account name type, but we'll get to that later. And also I started looking into one of what we discussed last meeting, which is adding a new VOP when for when the account, the recovery account changes. And yeah, so that's about it for me.
Okay. Well, it's been quite a while, so it's hard to keep track of everything that we've done since the last meeting. Most recently, though, we've been testing the latest HiveMind. I'll let maybe Bartek comment on that, but I believe they did a full sync, and I think it mostly went okay. So we're planning to release a official one to master and move to the, the form where we're basically doing all our developing just in develop and just only recommending updates when we commit to master. That'll keep separate some of the changes from what's going on in HiveMind.
Yes, exactly. One of our biggest change done in Hive repository was also moving from master to develop. So right now, all developed features planned for next hard fork and developed as usually should be targeted into develop branch. And in opposite way, in the HiveMind repository, we finally got a point that we are ready to switch back to master, which code ready to be released. And last full sync started by Gandalf a few days ago, completed without problems. We have some remarks related to parts we can improve, but we decided that this is a good time to put version back to master and allow all our customers and API administrators just to pull master as usually and limit risks on instability by using direct develop. And I made today dedicated merge request to put changes back to master. I hopefully will complete solving few conflicts there today or at most tomorrow, and we'll have back a tagged version of HiveMind sources in master branch. So this way, I hope we will get to using best standards for coding and using our repositories by customers. So I hope it will simplify usage for everyone.
Okay, I have one question about that. I thought you had a bad cat, but not a bad dog.
I think I have 3 bad cats and 1 bad dog. but cats are sleeping right now.
Okay, so I've also been, so the past week I've been working on HiveMind while there weren't a lot of other people around. And I've been working on getting optimizations for the SQL side of things in terms of CPU performance. I've had pretty good luck there, and I think now we're able to run basically all of HiveMind on a machine with just like a load of 2 or under. And I think we can still do a little bit better. These commits aren't into the merge that he's talking about yet, but hopefully they'll be in the next couple of days, maybe even today or tomorrow. Let's see. beyond that, that's all I can really recall. Right? I guess other things that we're working on, just so you guys are aware, we're still working on the inside Hive D. We've got two people doing work right now. Two relatively new guys, for at least as far as this project goes. One guy is working on the plugin for the Hive D plugin to introduce data directly into HiveMind's Postgres database, and then we've got a guy working on the governance code for changing the way for allow for voter expiration. And that was a relatively simple project, I guess. So it seemed like a good starter project for one of the new guys being introduced to the Hive D code. So that's about all that comes to mind right now. I'm sure there's more going on, but like I said, a lot of it's just been too long ago for me to really recall the details. So that's probably it for now.
Okay, great.
As far as progress.
So do you know already what you're gonna set for the expiration of votes, and is it gonna be we set on everything, right? Okay, witness, proxies, proposal.
Yes, it'll be on basically anything we're calling a governance vote, which is changing a proxy, changing either a vote that's either for a witness or for a proposal. I think that's rough hand. That's what I can think of the three.
It.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing else comes to mind.
Yep. So yeah, that's. And you asked something else too, I think.
Yeah, about the duration.
Oh yeah, so the duration of I haven't really. I could do 6 months. I could do a year. I don't know. I don't have any strong preference one way or the other.
Yeah, we're thinking of a year. A year. I guess both are fine. Just depends how we're involved. I think we could do a year, and I think if we do 6 months, we have to make sure that the front ends are on board with notifications to tell people to revote.
Yeah, I mean, a year's probably better. I think a year's probably sufficient.
Yeah, we could do a year, and by then, front ends will probably adapt. And 6 months.
I think so. I'm pretty sure before a year it'll be done.
Yeah, so that should be fine. Okay, great. So that means now we have pretty much 5 Hive D developers.
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's probably more than that, but I have to count them up.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So down to the actual question. One question that, as I was working on the Hive D code and optimizing some stuff, I noticed that there were a lot of to-dos about using account ID type over account name type account name type is basically the actual account, like block traits, and account ID type is the ID of that account. And I don't get why we want to do that, because basically it reduces the memory usage, but it increases the, like whenever you do a lookup, you have to look up the ID to a name and then return the name. And I'm wondering if you guys had run some performance, I guess, analysis on the impact of such change.
I do not have any idea on that. Maybe Bartek has an idea. Do you know, Bartek?
Well, it depends on use case, I think. But generally, there are 2 important things in using multi-indexes in Hive D. One point is just forming some complex key which must hold 2 parts of data. For example, one, let's say it's voting time, and second, it is some identifier of account. And here we could have 2 possibilities: one to store name, and second to store account ID. And the question is what we next want to do with such ID of account. If we need it just to identify somehow account internally, I think better solution is to store account by ID, and this way reduce memory usage, and next also a little speed up accessing such account, which is also has logarithmic complexity similar to looking by name, but comparison of identifiers will be a little faster. And second, case when often IDs are part of key in multi-indexes is enforcing uniqueness. And that part is actually an effect of state we got after Steemit guys. And as far as I heard from them some time ago, was that they tried to stabilize cases when non-unique index could contain the same values, and this way they enforced uniqueness by appending some identifier to given entry, and avoid random order during evaluation of state at given node. Actually, in this case, enforcing uniqueness is less important than making stable order of processing, which after appending identifier will be always the same. In opposite way, when, for example, only time of vote or of account creation or etc. Similar case can be random and not undetermined. So actually, that are two cases when an identifier can be part of key. And I personally must know exact case when name could be used in opposite to identifier. And in case when we can use both, I will say use this type which allow us reduce memory usage. So this very specific case, and probably there is no general answer saying that we always will use name because it is simplifier than identifier. It always depends of use case and algorithm which next uses such data during processing.
Yeah, I see. I'm mostly worried about the API nodes having to, like, let's say, for instance, one of the to-dos that I say is the convert request object. Let's say you want to query a ton of convert requests. That means the API node will have to for every single convert request have to fetch the account ID to account name. Or we could make the decision to have the API return account IDs, but that's kind of a bad decision, I think, because then the requester will have to query the API node another time to get the ID to account name. So yeah, I was just wondering if there was if the performance to memory gain was calculated or not. So I guess the answer is no. So we might have to see if it's actually worth it. But yeah, okay. Cool. Okay, so
I would like to add something. I personally do not see this as a priority right now because memory consumption is, let's say, no more an issue because we already reduced it a lot. And I personally do not see any uniqueness issue by keeping names instead of IDs. So I'm not sure that's something we should do right now.
yeah, that's a fair point.
Are we talking about doing something new? I thought you were talking about more when you were implementing recurrent transfers, whether you were just your own data structures you were thinking of creating. This was an issue for that, I thought. Or are we talking about changing some existing tables?
Yeah, it's about. I mean, it's not. Well, it's tables per se. But
yeah, you know what I mean. Multi-indexes.
Yeah. Well, basically, there is a lot of there is a lot of to-dos in the code about replacing names for IDs. For instance, witness votes, convert requests. It's mostly about objects within the code. And the idea is that the input is still an account name, but internally we store everything as IDs. And also I wanted to know if this would be a rule of thumb for new endpoints or not.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as far as our endpoints go, we don't have any endpoints that return IDs, right? I mean, they all return names, don't
that
they?
account does, I think.
Well,
it's
it gives you the
account
ID.
IDs.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you the ID, of course, in that case.
Yeah,
but
that's the only one, I think.
yeah, but I mean, there's not normally ones that, you know, when you ask about a bunch of accounts, it gives you IDs back.
Recurrent transfer actually does, because I thought with HiveMind getting bigger and bigger, it would be useful just to have people compare more quickly, assuming they run SQL queries. And it doesn't cost us that much more to return both of us at the same time. It's literally one more field, and we have the data, so might as well. But none of the old, well, quote unquote, old endpoints return the IDs, no.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess Archange is right on that though. Memory shouldn't be that much of a rush now. So then it's quite a small topic, but I mean, it's a very big topic, but I wanted to touch on it lightly. I had a bunch of discussions with a few people who were asking me why can't we do layer 1 SMT plus layer 2 SMT as a way to basically benefit from both, okay, the stability of layer 1 and the let's say potential and malleability. Let's say I don't know the exact word I want to say, but you get the idea.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd phrase it somewhat differently from the question you've got written. You've got layer 1 SMT plus layer 2 SMT. And I guess what I think you're saying ultimately is layer 1 SMT plus layer 2 smart contract tokens, or smart contracts in general, which could be smart contract tokens as well, of course.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything that prevents that. I think that's certainly one of the strategies we should consider is a layer 1 SMT token and a layer 2 smart token or smart contract token. So the only, I mean, so it just, I mean, I think we definitely want smart contracts. I think that's without question, really. And I still fairly convinced that needs to be done at the second layer. As far as the first layer, whether we do SMTs at the first layer or not, it's just going to come down to do we have somebody to vote to it, and you know, what's the benefit trade-offs? Does it make sense with the? I guess it comes down a little bit to how good the second layer token we have is for smart contracts. If it's efficient enough that it just doesn't matter. So if somebody wants to devote time to layer 1 SMTs now, that's fine. But I guess with the limited development team, my goal was to work on the smart contract tokens first, and then after that come back and look and see if we want a layer 1 token as well. But again, if somebody has time to devote to layer 1 SMTs and measuring the impacts of that, I don't have any problem with it.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's like a lot of it's a lot of strain on the actual code because there is a ton of stuff with SMTs.
Yes, there's a lot of details there, a lot of stuff that I don't know how well has been tested. So yeah, there's performance, there's possibility of introducing bugs, there's potential performance impacts. So a lot of stuff needs to be done in terms of analysis. I mean, so even though we got code written, we just don't know the state of it really. And it, you know, I mean, there was testing going on, so obviously it's in, you know, they did some performance testing. So it's not that it's necessarily out of hand, but it's not necessarily necessary. So I'm trying to optimize our performance paths as far as development goes as much as possible. And from that point of view, to me, if we know we need smart contracts, I want to do what we know we need first before I spend time on, you know, the looking at the first layer stuff, unless that is we just have an abundance of developers and we can proceed with both without any issues.
Yeah, that's pretty much my point. It's also on the front end side and on the UX side. I'm afraid that having tokens from everywhere might lead to a lot of confusion, and I'm afraid of that it will spread ourselves too thin if you do it like this.
At least for the moment. I mean, things could change. We're adding a bunch of developers, so we'll see how we go. But at the moment, with the current level of developers, I would rather. I mean, we've got a fairly good number now, but still, they're all working on a lot of projects.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's yeah, we'll see.
It's just, I guess what it comes down to is I'm not ready to answer that question completely yet, unless somebody else wants to step in and work on it. I think, we're probably looking at a couple of weeks where we could even come to any conclusions on that. And that's in the best case.
Yeah, we'll know how that goes. Okay. Anything else on that topic?
Not now, really. I mean, we're just about to really jump in, I guess, pretty soon. We're with HiveMind kind of coming to a nice point. We can say we've made a major milestone. I think we'll expect that development to be slowing down a lot, which means we're going to be shifting to hopefully I think really the layer 2 smart contracts is where we're going next. So for a lot of those devs.
Yeah. Crimson mentioned that it would be great to have a disregard fiat into a meeting with us. And I think he's on Mattermost, so he could probably join if he wanted to. That would be interesting.
You talking about Asgarth? Who'd you say?
Disregard fiat.
Oh, disregard fiat. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's been working on a great L2 solution, and I guess
we definitely. Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. I haven't had a chance to look at his stuff yet. I saw the proposal up, but I haven't had a chance to dig into it yet. It's just been the holidays, and plus I wanted to finish up this HiveMind stuff while everybody was gone.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Like it's right now it's the inflection point where productivity went down a lot, and now it's gonna get back to normal.
Yeah.
So next subject is basically the real wolf who wanted to allow the post and comment deletion when there are votes and active shares. Right now there is it's not possible unless you have more than you can have votes, but if the alphas are more than 0, you cannot delete it. And yeah, basically the idea would be to enable that because it's a bit tricky for the front ends to show the delete button or not, and it's a bit UX weird.
No, I disagree. I mean, it's not more tricky for the front end to calculate required air shares to vote accordingly, compared to all the hassle we need to do to I don't implement that in consensus level.
Just to clarify, I don't think he means it's tricky in the sense of difficult to code. I think he means it seems weird from a user interface.
Yeah, exactly.
I suspect.
Because
but yeah, so there's two different issues here. One, we're talking about how this stuff looks, and then there's the work involved in one way or the other. So yeah, so but I mean Gandalf's got a good point. The question is whether adding that is worth the work involved, and I actually just have no idea.
Well, I don't think there is that much into it, right? It's mostly what I'm afraid of is active votes. Like, let's say you get a whale vote and then you delete your post, so the whale, well, I mean, not the whale, anyone would then have wasted their voting power on you. So I'm wondering if, because it's mostly a UX.
Yeah, I don't really know the justification for this. I don't know why this feature was done this way. So, I mean, what you said is possibly one reason. Maybe it's a protection for the voter, but that could be it. But I don't know that that's really that huge. I don't see that that's, I mean, if you're voting for people who are deleting their posts all the time, well, you just stop voting for those people. I don't see the loss there, the economic loss there to the voter to be that high. There could be some other reason I don't know about. Maybe I think Gandalf was concerned that it might impact calculations in the consensus. I don't know really why. It doesn't sound like it should be that complicated to me, but again, there could be. That could actually be a reason. It may be something like when you remove that from the calculations, something gets difficult. But on the face of it, it doesn't sound like it should be hard to me. But the only questions I have is, if so, why didn't they do it? Unless it's this fair voter thing. So, yeah, I don't really have a good answer. I can't, from a feature reason, I don't think there's any reason not to allow it. if there's a code implementation reason, I don't know. So I'd say if you want to look into it, feel free.
Gilbert said that it makes malicious farming for reward extraction easier. I don't think so, because the idea is
Hold on, let me read his comment. I didn't actually see it. Where that's in.
That's in the chat for Zoom.
Okay.
I don't think so, because we are talking about actually deleting the post.
Yeah,
so
I don't understand how this makes it makes malicious farming for reward extraction easier. When you delete the post, no one's going to get rewards from that post anymore. So I don't see how that could be used to get benefit easily.
Maybe it was ticked up actually, as in they didn't want to take care of posts that have the deleted flag and take them out of the equation when you do the post the payout. So that's maybe
I mean that's the reason that's the only reason I could. I mean, there's two possible reasons. One would be the voter, this voter fairness thing that you mentioned originally. The second one would be it may just be difficult for some reason internally. And Crimson Clad says, I assume he means that you make your own post, vote the crap out of it, and then delete. Yeah, but that doesn't actually get you anything. Yeah, if you delete the post, you won't get the rewards. That's implicit in what we're talking about here.
Now you won't, because you have to have error shares below 0. But then we will have to reset that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, implicit in anything we're talking about here is that if you deleted the vote, somehow all those error shares, are no longer going to go towards the rewards. So there may be challenges associated with that internally. I don't think they should be that incredible, honestly. But because as far as I know, basically what we're talking with our shares is again, I haven't even looked at this algorithm, but I can see that probably based on the amount of our shares out there, they then distribute the rewards accordingly proportionally. So if so, then we're just talking about taking some of the R shares out of the equation, and other posts just get more rewards.
I think it's mostly the payout that wasn't done, either that or voter protection. So speaking of the devil, the real wolf who suggested that is here. Okay, so in the end, no real reason to not do it. Need to look into it to see if there is an actual obvious reason of the code. But on the other hand, I don't really see a reason because UX-wise, I don't really see. I feel like it doesn't make a lot of sense to see the delete button and then to not see it anymore. And for a lot of people, it's a bit scary to not be able to delete their things. So I guess I'll put it on the why not list.
And why not simply add a hide flag, and then when it's hit, the post or comment is not votable?
Well, I mean, if you hide it, so we can't get into the issue where it still rewards things, but you can't see it.
Yeah, that's.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I just got back. The issue is a bit older, so I just have to get into it again. I think the reason I made it was because I don't know if you fixed it on the HiveMind level, but the reason I made the issue is because I need, or it would be great to be able to delete posts or comments for a user, which were just created, I don't know, maybe a minute ago or 2 minutes ago. But sometimes people vote in the first 1 minute, and there could be a mistake.
So it gets difficult to delete your comments. I mean, I think it's a valid issue. So I mean, and as far as since there's I think Guilty is still concerned about the implications of this, so let's just explain how we're talking about making this work, just so it's clear to everybody. So you put up a post, somebody immediately votes on the post, you delete the post. Effectively, any votes on that post would basically just be ignored. It's like they're lost. They get no rewards either for the author or for the voter.
Well,
that's basically the implication I'm looking at. That's the implementation. If we did this, I think that's the implementation that makes sense to me. If anybody has another suggestion for how to do it, speak up.
I mean, if that means that it's deleted on the blockchain level, right?
It means that the rewards there won't be any rewards for that deleted post.
Yeah,
it won't be
but
shown anymore.
if it's deleted on the Hivemind level, the rewards would still pile up.
No.
But
Oh,
that's not
well,
what you
of course,
want, right?
of course, no. I'm talking about rewards. Rewards are done at first layer, so it has nothing to do with the Hivemind.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
but the question is whether or not the post should be deleted on the first layer or on Hivemind.
Well, if we had to deal with it on the first layer. So I mean, it's not that Hivemind might not be able to see the post. It will, because it'll see when it initially got created. Hivemind's always going to see anything that happens on the blockchain.
Yeah. I mean,
but it's
there's
not.
already
Are you
a
asking whether it's
flag
going to be
for
shown?
Hivemind, right?
Yeah, they're sure, but that's based off what happens inside the, it sees a delete transaction call inside, that happens at the first layer.
Yeah, but
so
is it
we're
already
just going to
supporting
allow
that?
Yeah, there's no real work for Hivemind here.
Yeah,
there's no change in Hivemind required by any of this. This is purely a first layer change.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's already a deleted flag on Hivemind, so everything is done.
Again, it's been a bit older, so I don't know what the current state is. I mean, does Hivemind support it, that we can delete it with active votes, or?
No.
Yeah, Hivemind doesn't care about that at all.
Okay, good.
It doesn't do any kind of checking or anything like that. So all we're really talking about is whether the only issue really is whether it's a difficult first layer change or not. At first glance, it doesn't sound like one, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I agree that it's enough for Hivemind. I'm not sure whether or not that was supported 3 months ago when I created the issue, but if it's now, it's totally fine.
Well, I mean, this has never been an issue for Hivemind. This is always a first layer issue.
Yeah, but if I remember correctly, I've gotten some errors when I tried to do that, and I'm not sure why.
Yeah, because the first layer is preventing you from doing it.
Yeah, but
but there's nothing in Hivemind that's doing anything against it. It's purely, what are you saying when you say something was wrong in Hivemind layer? What do you mean was wrong in Hivemind layer?
No, what I mean is when I delete it now, when I create a post and it has an active vote and I delete it now, it works. I mean, it works on the Hivemind layer, and what I get is that there's no post visible for the user. That's the only thing I want to happen. I don't want any post to be visible, so it doesn't clutter the feed. And I'm not sure whether or not I wanted that 3 months ago. I think it was. So there was never a problem with Hivemind, and I think the issue now is redundant. So I think it's good enough that the post is deleted on Hivemind. I mean, there's a flag set,
so
and
probably
it's not shown.
This really shouldn't be an issue in Hivemind. It should be an issue in Hive.
Yeah, but I don't think we should put or we have to put resources into it, since Hivemind supports that. But I didn't know. I don't know if Hivemind supported it 3 months ago. That's what I mean.
I don't think anything's changed here on Hivemind. So right now, Hive D is still going to prevent you from deleting a post once it gets votes.
But is it? Does it result?
So the post
in
is going to be. Well, you're going to get an error. The layer 1 is going to generate an error. It tells you can't delete that post, but it's the layer 1 doing it. It's not Hivemind doing it.
Yeah, but when I make an API request for the to the node to delete a post, will I get an error or will I get a success from Hivemind?
Yeah, that error is coming from Hive D. It's not coming from Hivemind. Not all API calls are handled by, all transactions. In fact, you're talking about making a transaction call here to delete a post. That goes to Hive D, not to Hivemind. All transactions first go to Hive D, and except second layer transactions.
Okay, but
you're talking
the goal
first
would
layer
here
transaction.
to have the second layer know that Hive would fail, so it would still delete it on the Hivemind layer.
No. You can't do that. We can't do that.
Why not? I mean,
because HiveMind listens to the blockchain, and
the
then you would
blockchain
need
doesn't
to-
have your delete call. Your delete call is being removed.
Basically, you could do that using custom JSON.
Yeah, but again, we don't want to go that
we
route.
don't want to. Okay, and we don't want to go that route because it would enable people to just create posts and then hide them.
This would actually do what Guilty Parties is concerned about.
Which would basically be bad because because you have to deal with the rewards, and to deal with the rewards, you have to deal with that.
But how do we deal
is
with
just a representation of the
feeds?
state of the state representation of the transaction. That's what HiveMind is.
I mean, it's not about how it works right now. For me, the problem is that that I don't want the feeds to get cluttered by someone creating a post, trying to delete it a minute later, and not being able to.
Yeah, and the only way to fix this is to change HiveD.
Yeah, which is
okay.
Which
okay,
has been,
okay. I get it. Well, I mean, okay, that's a that's a difficult UX for the user, right? I mean, it's okay.
Yeah, that's what it should be. Unless we find some true problems, I don't think it will be that complicated.
No, my initial guess is it's not difficult to do.
Yeah, just need to look into it. Okay, cool. Spent a bit more time on that than I thought. So one other thing, I guess I'll skip that for now. So now on the comments from Asgarth, he sent us a lot of questions about HiveMind and community support. Basically, he wants to know if there is any improvement on the roadmap for communities. And basically, I don't think anyone is working on communities right now. And
I don't know of anybody who's focusing specifically on, I mean, well, there's two levels here, right? I mean, I assume before we talk about actually coding anything, we've got to come up with a list of plans of what things are wanted for communities. Certainly, I don't think anybody from our team has spent time on looking at, we haven't had any time basically to do that, to look at what would be new for communities. We've just been focusing on getting HiveMind working well for, basically the APIs as it stands today. So the last thing we wanted to do is introduce changes during that period of time. I think we're now at the point where we can start looking at, what kind of changes people would want. So yeah, I think a discussion about improvements it's appropriate time to start discussing improvements to community features. So I think he mentioned a couple. I don't see them here, but I thought he mentioned some specific ones.
Yeah, so there are a few.
I'm here.
Yeah, so I think one of those ones you wanted, I don't see it here in the lists anymore, but I thought you mentioned one of the features you wanted. Oh, maybe this feature was from Asgarth, Sergio. That's what I was thinking. I think Asgarth suggested the ability to allow only posting from members into a community.
Yeah.
For instance, that sounds simple enough to me, but
yeah, it was actually one of. There was a plan that Roadscape made for communities and further development, and it was on the list before, so it would be good to have Roadscape.
Is that like a written down plan, or is that in his head?
I think that it's written down somewhere, but Slack is down. Right now there is an outage and Slack is not working, so I couldn't find in my notes with Roadscape if it's but I'm sure that he already put a lot of thinking to planning future features for HiveMind.
Maybe I can find I'm Sergio. I can find the document. Probably it's in the repository, so we should still have the notes.
Yeah. So yeah, let's maybe make an issue and add that to to HiveMind.
I mean, he did add a ton of issues already. I guess the main question is to see what we want to, how we want to implement a lot of those things, and how quickly,
yeah, let's build up a list of what we want. We've already got this, so we should probably review this document, and then maybe the next meeting we could focus on that, and let's just go over that plus any other ideas I guess other people have for, and then we could talk about, you know, what we want to do.
Yeah,
basically from that list.
Meeting. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody wants to mention stuff now, I'm more than happy to talk about it now, though.
I made a small list with the thing that I would like to see in the next release. And from my point of view, my list is from top priorities to lower priorities. So the first one for me is the ability to vote on all posts. And then we have a couple of issues with Reblogs, so some enhancement. And one for the notification and the list of bugs. So just something that we should check and maybe close or fix.
Okay.
It's not very long. It's just about
I'm looking,
how much time we have.
The list now. Yeah. Well, I guess let's start by what else do we have after this? Maybe we'll come back to, is there anything else other that we have to talk about at this point, or is this, can we just jump into this?
There are a few points from Archange. Some of those are more like suggestions than anything else. Like better call dev meetings, that's literally just for me. Basically, we should have a better summary of the point discussed plus the decisions. Okay, postpone,
yeah, sure,
etc. Basically, it could be summed up as we need better follow-up, which is kind of my bad. Like we discussed things, but then we never really go through with it. So that's the thing we need to get better at.
Okay, let's jump into the community stuff, honestly, because I'm looking at, I've already read through Archange stuff, and it sounds like stuff that's fairly straightforward. So let's since we got Garth here, let's talk to him about that. So okay, so the first one, allow voting on posts with the custom JSON operation, and that's just for posts that have already expired, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean, have already paid out is what that's for.
But initially that was about being a mitigation for the bug that was lately introduced, that you cannot vote for the posts that are already past their
and I think
date.
right. So I don't think this is an issue. I think for HiveMind, I think this is, we've already agreed that we're going to revert the change that prevented votes after the paid out date. So that one's kind of, we can close that issue, I think. Okay, let's see. The next one we've got here is allow Reblog to be undone. So that sounds fairly straightforward at first thought. So I think, yeah, that seems totally reasonable. I can't think. Okay, so is there any philosophical implications around that? I don't see any. I don't see any reason someone can't unreblog something they've reblogged, unless anybody else disagrees. Implementation-wise, it sounds relatively simple.
Yes, and as far as I remember, guys hired by this company that steals people's funds was telling that they just don't have time to implement that.
Okay, well, it doesn't sound hard. Let's go to the next one then. Allow reblog to a specific community.
Dan, about Reblog to be undone, if you implement this, can you make it really simple? Because currently Reblog and follow, it's a pretty nightmare to follow, because that's some flags in that changes when you change value, it changes behavior. Please make it simple with a custom JSON, but a clear description of the transaction type.
Okay, well, I haven't looked at how the reblog is done, but I'll, certainly we'll take a look at how it's done when we do it.
1 mean reblog, 0 mean unblog, and so on.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it'll be complicated, whatever we do. Let's see. Allow reblog to a specific community. So right now, reblog just goes to your feed. So I guess this would be to allow it to go to a community, to some community instead of to your feed, I suppose. So that's just going to require, when you do the reblog, specifying an additional parameter, I guess, to say the community. It sounds relatively trivial also. I don't think that's difficult at all.
But it creates some mess. Currently, we have this workaround that you can repost in a different community, something that you have posted elsewhere.
You talk about cross-posting, right?
Yes.
This is replacing cross-posting effectively.
Yes. But I'm not convinced that reblogging feature is the right way to do that. Also, it would be good to ask because there were some.
So let me describe how I think this will work. So essentially, we're only going to have one post here, right? So a reblog is not going to create a new post or anything. Effectively, it's just going to advertise that post into a community. That's what we're talking about. So this is purely a HiveMind change. It's a UI change. It's effectively a UI change because now in your community you can stick a post, existing post in the community without having to write a new post. So I don't see how that changes much of anything. So there's no consensus changes. There's no, which means there's no reward changes for anybody. It's merely a way to, I mean, you could argue that somebody could cross post into a bunch of communities and get more visibility, but communities have defense mechanisms if they don't like that happening. So I think it makes plenty of sense. Unless I'm missing something.
Keep in mind that you can maybe mute post or author, so you have to take that into account because I'm not sure you can right now you have the tool to handle muted post or muted reblog because there is not able to track that. So
that'll be trivial. That's not hard. That won't be difficult at all. Yeah, if an author is muted, they will not be able they won't be able to reblog into that community if they're muted in that community.
There is some added complexity because currently Reblog doesn't have to check if you can reblog because you always can because you are reblogging.
Sure.
To
I mean, there's certainly a complexity there, but it's not a difficult one.
And keep in mind what we discussed yesterday about the optional message. So you can reblog with sharing a little more context to explain why you have reblog.
So that's a separate issue. Is there a note? Did you create an issue for that one? Or is that just
actually I added the point
to 108. Okay, you added to the reblog. Okay, so yeah, I think that also doesn't sound particularly difficult. It's just an additional optional field we would add to the command along with community. So we'd have two optional commands now, community and comment, I guess, or something like that. We'll have to come up with a reasonable name for it. And then, so that's additional storage. So we'll have the storage, I guess, would be stored with the reblog itself. I don't think it's going to be editable comment very easily. So I guess if you wanted to change the comment, you'd have to effectively do something like unblog and then reblog it again with a new comment, I suppose.
Okay.
But I don't sound difficult at all. Let's see. Any more comments on that one, or should we move on to the next point?
Yeah, I think we can move on.
Okay. Allow user to pin posts in their own blog. Okay. Yeah, I mean, at least it sounds like a nice feature. I guess let's talk about it conceptually first. Is there any objections to this on a conceptual level? Now,
you can now pin posts in a community, so it makes sense to allow the same on blogs.
Yeah, so So I guess the only potential abuse case for this is somebody could just sit there and pin a bunch of posts, that look fine at the beginning of their thing, and then they could try to hide their abuse this way. But
there are other better views to see.
That's what I was going to say.
So it's okay.
There should be plenty of ways to get around that problem. So I don't think that's really too serious. Anyone else have any potential thoughts they can think about why they're not allowing this would make any sense from a conceptual point of view?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so then in terms of implementation, we already have allowing reblog. So pinnings, we're going to have to add a new command that basically we have to modify the API call that displays your feed to search for show the pin ones first. But we've already got code that implements that for communities. It probably is much more difficult to basically grab that code and modify it slightly to work for a feed as well. So I don't think implementation-wise it's too difficult. And of course, the pinning itself shouldn't be very different than the way you pin a post in a community. So yeah, I don't think implementation of that is going to be difficult. Okay, notifications. Allow user to select notification type. So what is that? What does that mean? You mean what kind of notifications they get?
Yeah, because the common complaint about this is that a lot of users would like to turn off notification for votes.
So they're talking about their counts, I guess, is what.
No, not the counts, but also the list, because most of them doesn't really want to check.
Well, you already have filters on your list, right? You can filter your list for different types of information already. You can just see your replies. You can see. So you already have.
The problem is that I would like to have everything but votes, like
you never
replays.
Okay, so you're saying you'd like to filter. Okay, so there's two different things here. Well, I guess it's really one thing. You'd like to filter your all list, is what you're really talking about.
Yeah.
Because you already have filters on each of these things individually, but you're talking about you'd like to filter on. Honestly, so there's two different things though. There's the actual number which gets displayed at the top, and then there's these actual, all. So I mean, I don't see why this really has to be done at HiveMind level. It feels like it shouldn't be difficult to filter these things out at the UI level. We're not talking about vast numbers. So I'm not sure that it makes sense to do this.
A number is probably just a number. It's not something I can filter because it's just the amount of.
Well, sure you can. You filtered the data and you get the number out of the data you filter. So if you have 4,000 notifications, you filter out all the votes, and now you're down to 2,000, and you show that as your number.
But this means that I have to do always the Hive call, not the simple call with the small payload. I have to always fetch the whole list.
So do you get a number? Is that the way you right now? Do you just get a number from one of your API calls? What's the API call? Is it profile or what is it coming in?
I don't know. Unread notification count or something like that. Let me see if I can find the file.
Okay, that sounds right. I've seen an unread notification call before. Okay, so you're making the unread notification call. So what you're really talking about is changing. You want to filter on the unread notification call.
Yeah, because I want just the number of what I want to know about.
Okay, so let me see if you've already put this stuff in here. If not, okay. So what I would suggest is you add to this post, this issue, a description that you're talking about modifying the unread notification call, and then propose what optional. I guess you're going to pass an optional parameter in there. It would be like a bitmask filter on the things that you would want to be able to filter.
Yeah, that will work. And
so I mean, I assume we're going to probably stick with the same group we've already got, which is something like, if I remember vaguely, we've got replies, we have voting, mentions, and I don't remember what else, reblogs. I don't know.
Yeah, I just shared the call in the chat.
Okay. Okay, so moving back. Let's see. Minor enhancements and fixes. Increase limit of display name column. So, okay, you say column, but I assume you mean the actual display name. Is this in the profile? Is this related to the profile column?
There is an hard limit on the database, so it's the same.
What's the limit?
I don't remember.
Okay, it says 20. Your comment says 20, and your proposal is to increase it to at least 35.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any objections to this?
Not really.
It's not an indexed column, so
yeah, it's fine. Plus, it's
okay. So
sounds
trivial enough at first glance. So, and I can't see any real reason to say no to that. Okay, allow pagination for method list subscribers. Okay, yeah, we're adding pagination generally speaking, so I guess that'll probably fall into something we're doing for other stuff. So certainly seems
Yeah,
possible.
basically right now it's impossible to check all the member of a large community because you cannot get more of the list. So it's.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you mean there's a hard limit on the list? It'll show.
No, there is a problem when you are trying to limit the amount of what you are displaying, and when you enter 0, you can't check the last element because how API is constructed. But I think that that's the more complex issue of rewriting and improving our API.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what we're talking about here. This is discussion. So, yeah, okay.
To be consistent among all our API calls.
The pagination should be the same. We shouldn't have multiple pagination schemes. Okay. Let's see. Wrong date and notifications for new mentions when editing a post. I think there's been some fixes in that stuff already. I don't know where that's at right now, but as far as I knew, most of that had been fixed.
I have not really checked, so maybe you are right.
Okay, let's see. I'm not saying it's been fixed in every case, but I believe in general it's been fixed. Let's see. The next one is error in list communities role API call. This API call simply fails if the last parameter is specified. So last being, what's the last parameter mean?
I think it's another pagination issue.
Yes, that's the same class of a problem.
Okay, so it's a different form of, okay, so it needs to standardize the pagination, and whatever pagination was there just doesn't work. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
That sounds like a simple bug at this point, actually, the way it's implemented. So
actually, the error message is that the database column is missing, so it's for sure a bug.
Yeah, well, I looked at the query. That's just wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that all sounds straightforward. So I think we came to the conclusion most all this stuff is probably doable.
Okay. And for the first one, for the vote on old post, do you think it's better to wait for the...
Yes, I want to wait for the hard fork and do it right. If we need to accelerate the hard fork, we can talk about that. But I think that's where it should be done for sure. It should not be done in HiveMind at all. So if this is really critical for you guys, we can talk about whether we can accelerate the hard fork some.
Okay, it's not critical, but we can. It will be nice to be able to use that, because just so you understand what we need, why we need it. One is for the user, because it's difficult for them to understand, and the other reason is that it's easier for us to somehow flag some post. So you want to flag the post for something, and you just create a specific account, and every time that account vote, the post is flagged.
I understand.
So
I get
that's what we want. For example, we want to be able to hide images by default on some posts. We have just an account, and when that account vote the post or downvote, the post is hidden, and something like that. It's a sort of blacklist that we can use.
I understand. I understand.
And
yeah, I mean, and yeah, like I said, I mean, we're not fixed on our hard fork date either. So if this really gets to be something that we absolutely have to do, we can, we can accelerate a little bit. But it definitely should be done. This is not.
Why this is an hard fork? I mean, it's a vote on an old post that is not going to be
because right now that vote does not getting put into the blockchain.
Because some witness will reject the transaction while other will allow it.
Well, no, they all reject it. The witnesses reject it. It doesn't get to the blockchain, and therefore HiveMind cannot see it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a technical problem. It's the way first layer, second layer stuff. If first layer rejects, second layer never sees. So we can't. So that's why it's happening that way. And we could make a workaround with custom JSON, but it's kind of messy, and I'd rather just do it right.
But if we restore the ability to vote on all posts, and those votes doesn't really have shares, it will still be available in the API, so recorded in HiveMind?
Yeah.
And how do you record if it is an up vote or a down vote?
It'll look just like any other vote.
But the other vote are...
HiveMind will see it. HiveMind will see it. I think it gets recorded. I think the data that HiveMind sees is a 0 vote up or down, if I recall. But I don't remember. I mean, it might actually show it. I just don't remember. But I mean, this is a feature that was been around. It just got removed by mistake in the hard fork 24. Somebody thought it didn't make any sense and it got removed and it wasn't discussed.
Yeah, but if you cannot store the weight, so you don't know if it was an up vote or a down vote.
I'm pretty sure we know if it's an up vote or a down vote. I believe that information was there.
The information, I agree, but keep in mind that the API just give you the air shares, so you don't have the weight in the API.
Look, we can check it. Okay. I mean, I just don't know right offhand. You're asking me a question I can't answer at the top of my head.
Okay.
Okay, but I get what you want. You want to be sure that you can tell if it's an upvote or down vote, and I don't think that should be difficult.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we covered all the issues there. Let's see. Then Arcane's issues. Arcane suggested a longer-term roadmap, at least 1 year with dates. Okay, you can put up your dates. You're not getting mine. It's just too difficult.
You have to stick to those days, but it's to
yeah.
say, okay,
So
within 6 months we will do this, or within 1 year we will do this.
well, we
Or
have
we
some.
expect
We
to
have
do
some
this.
of that. We've already. I have a post that describes at least what I plan on doing in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't put the dates within that 6 month of when they're happening. I just said these things are happening in 6 months.
Mhm.
If you've got some suggestions about that post, feel free to discuss. Let's see, better core dev meetings. That was for Havo. I think we already said involving community devs. I think we certainly, I assume you're talking about, well, let's talk about what we're talking about here. Involving community devs. Are we talking more in terms of Hive D, Hive Mind, or something else?
Yeah. Because it's sometimes hard to jump into the development team, because
So I guess what I'm asking, there's 3 different levels here of involving community devs. One is apps, one is Hive Mind, and one is Hive D. Are you talking about any specific area or all 3?
I'm talking about core apps, meaning Hive D, Hive Mind, Juicy, things like that.
Okay, so
yeah,
I think Juicy's pretty open now, right?
Sorry?
I mean, as far as I know, nothing. Juicy is fairly. I mean, nothing's really going on in Juicy, to be honest. Almost nobody's doing any work in Juicy, but it's open as far as it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Hive Mind, I would say, has not been open just because we've been in the middle of radical updates to it, and therefore it was kind of a messy time for anybody to be doing anything while we were in the midst of this. At this point, I would say Hive Mind is stabilized to a large extent. So once we release to master, I think it's open season if somebody wants to start looking at adding their own stuff to it. Hive D is open now, I would say, but there is a learning curve associated with it that's less than small.
Well, same for the Hive Mind, I guess, because people usually underestimate the complexity of good tests. Like,
well, there's
they
going to be
don't do that.
So there's one issue that I think we need to take on still, which is to make it clear how to do the tests and how to run the tests. So that needs to happen in the next couple of weeks, I think. But with that in mind, once it's clear to somebody that how to do it, how to write tests for it, and they're willing to write tests, then I think it should be pretty straightforward for somebody to join and be involved. It should be, and if it's not, then we have a problem with the testing system.
But when I say involving community devs, it's not only having the required skill and so on. We could create bounties, or it's having more developers.
Okay, so I don't want to manage bounties
than just your team and a few ones like OWO or Gandalf.
Yeah, so somebody suggested the bounties idea already, and That's fine. I just don't want to be a bounty manager. If somebody wants to take on being a bounty manager, that's great.
Yeah, I mentioned that.
Decentralized platform. Just
yeah,
saying.
anybody. If somebody wants to manage a bounty program, I'd suggest they make a proposal, get it voted up, and take it from there. A guilty party suggested something like that recently to me too, and I said that's fine. I just can't be the guy who manages that.
Okay, so let's talk about it.
I think if somebody, would you be interested in running a program like that, Archange?
I would be really. I should find time because all of us, we are all busy. So yes, I would like to say yes, but if I say yes, I want to do it. And
okay, well, think about it.
It's already full.
Yeah. Okay. So okay, or we can even see if there is somebody interested in doing this. So maybe it doesn't have to be any of us here, of course, obviously. I guess, but I do want to put out there that I do not have the time to manage bounties. I've been involved in, at least glancingly, in bounty programs before, and from my point of view, they didn't work out well. So it's not that I don't think they can't, but I think it's quite a bit of challenge and it takes quite a bit of time. Let's see. So, okay, so that community devs, you might want to make a comment in there that part of that is a suggestion for bounties program, because I had no idea that that's what that meant. Documentation update. I presume we're talking about HiveMind, or are we talking about something else?
About everything.
Okay, so do you just mean you want?
At least the documentation on API to update them, HiveMind, HiveD. Just keep it.
Well, a little change in HiveD.
Maybe we should writer.
So the problem is with our current documentation that lies on developers Hive.io, and it's documentation for our API. And documentation sucks because API sucks. And currently there was this time period with heavy HiveMind development. And now I think it's slowly the time to start thinking about improving things, including documentations. I have one person that's good in it, and I think can improve documentation. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, it's decentralized projects, and it's super easy because we are paying content creators, and documentation is actually content. So
yeah, but
we have a lot of users.
But documentation of API requires somebody. It requires at least somebody with a programming background, for sure. And
yeah,
I mean, if someone preferably who has direct interface to the people who've implemented those API calls. So
yeah, of course, but there's also a smaller projects that can be handled by less experienced users. So let's don't underestimate that. And of course, I think we have one good candidate for documentation creation and updating. So
okay, let's talk about that offline then.
High hopes. Okay.
Okay.
The main issue with doing posts and for documentation is that then it's very hard to find them. Like literally, I often find myself trying to dig through GitLab posts from 2018, and that's why it would be much better.
Yeah, of course, posts shouldn't be our documentation source. I don't think. Yeah. I mean, posts. I mean, when I've posted anything about the new stuff we've done, my intention was that somebody would then take those posts and turn them into documentation. That simply isn't happening. Because no one's decided that it's their job to do that. So if we need to employ somebody to do it, that's fine. I'm sure we can find somebody. I can find somebody block trades probably to do it if necessary. Although it sounds like Gandalf may have somebody in mind. I don't know if that's in block trades or elsewhere. We can talk about that too later. But anyways, well, one way or the other, yeah. We haven't had anybody, I guess, doing the documentation officially for a while. So it's probably time to. And when I say that officially, I don't mean anybody else can't work, but I mean we need at least one person who believes it's their job to do it. And then if other people want to join in, that would be great.
I actually have a candidate as well for let's say, quote unquote full time. But if you're, I guess we can talk about it, Gandalf.
Yeah, let's just take that offline and we'll
I'm
discuss.
Not super sold on. I mean,
so the other
I'm
issue
down for
is
anything, is what I mean.
Okay. The other issue is related to all this is where is this documentation update going to be taking place? So are we using, I guess we're going to continue to use the repo that we've got it at currently.
It needs a lot of revamp. I made a ton of issues about it. I guess can anybody get in there and change it is I guess my first question. Yes.
Okay, great. That's the important thing.
I mean, worst case, we can clone the repo and that's it.
Okay.
So Inertia is still managing it. I mean, merging pull requests and everything. I like the framework that he's using because you can just put markdown files in it. So the transition from post to documentation is actually not that hard. And yeah, it just needs to be reorganized in a lot of ways so that you can have like consumer journeys more or less. I mean, developer journey where you go from I'm this, I want to do this. Okay, I'm a witness, I want to set up a new node. I'm an exchange, I want to do that. I'm a front-end developer, I want to search how to do this, that. It already has a lot of good stuff, but we just need to fine-tune it and update it because it still has a lot of Steam mentions.
Okay, so long story short, the data is accessible. We just need to assign people to work on it. Okay.
Yeah,
so
it literally just needs someone to be on it and do it. We have.
So it's probably a good time to address this. We'll like I said, we'll take this offline to come to some conclusions, but we'll get somebody who's dedicated to this, and of course, still leave it open to anybody else who wants to contribute as well, which would be great. I would really like that. Okay. So that's documentation issue. Okay, so we had some comments from Clemson Clad. In the chat channel, I think dates are less useful in our particular case as a set of accepted community dues. I tend to agree, obviously. 3Speak is looking at doing this as well. She's talking about the bounties. Well, that's interesting. That would be cool. So, okay, and she says, Archange, please speak to Starkers. Okay, so that sounds great. And then GP says the contributions have to be reviewed in terms of quality of code. If you do it, Archange, that should work well since you have the experience. Okay. So yeah, there's two issues with the bounty program for sure in terms of how we'd go about that. One is who's going to be, what kind of issues, how we're going to create issues for the bounty program, and then who's going to do the reviewing of them. And so any issue that's created, it needs to be assigned at the time it's proposed. There also needs to be proposed who is going to be willing to evaluate the results of the bounty. I think that's fairly straightforward and clear. And then I guess there's also the issue of where these bounties are taking place. So they can be literally in anything, obviously, but it probably would be useful to establish, I guess, areas of what the bounty, what product it's for, whether it's for Hive-D, HiveMind, or one of the libraries or whatever. So just so somebody, the reviewers who would review these kind of issues would be knowing where to look for stuff that they should be reviewing. Okay, Crimson Clad said something else. She said the issue creation is something that the 3Speak team are really interested in finding good ways to bring up in the community itself before it hits a proposal, etc. Okay, well, as far as that goes, if it's just talking about issues, we have created a community which anybody can post to called Hive Improvements. I think that's probably the simple place to bring up initial suggestions for improvements, and then propose that maybe we could create a bounty for it, and the discussion can ensue there. I feel like a post is sufficient for this. I don't think we need a software system for this beyond that. But if somebody disagrees or has some features we can't do in simple community, let me know. Any other comments on the bounty system?
I don't think so.
Okay, so going back to Archange's points, improve network security. What is this about? This is, okay, so this is actually about the security here we're talking about here is actually, I guess, voting security. I think it's a comment from Bash Shadow. It's links to a comment from Bash Shadow. It says, I do not think it's time to start working on changes to the reward voting system yet. I'm still of the opinion we need to let the current reward voting system run for at least a year, and the priority should be still the fixing of the witness selection retention system. Well, I think the priority, at least as expressed by our team as far as hard forking, is certainly on the witness selection retention system in terms of voter expiration. I don't know what else would be proposed there. If someone else has other ideas beyond that.
No, I don't think that this comment is not up to date, I think. I mean, our
6 days
fork
ago.
actually, yeah, of course, but it's based on false, not up-to-date information. Because we actually made a change to governance that protects us from what happened.
There's right. You're right in terms of the sense that what happened in the initial requirement to start Hive has certainly been addressed to a large extent. It's no longer possible for an exchange to easily cast votes from their users and override the will of the community. So that was a major change in this regard, and I think that
also this expiration also kind of helps. Here.
Yes, it's also very useful, I think, for this kind of thing. So yeah, I feel like that has been a focus for us, and I think it still is. But if someone has new suggestions beyond the ones we're doing, yeah, of course, we're open to hearing them. Let's see, anonymous downvotes and upvotes. That's not easy to do. I won't say it's impossible, but I don't know of an easy way to do it right now. So it's on the topic of kind of hard problem to solve. I am interested in the problem of dealing with anonymous data, but it's not. Blockchains aren't really great for this. They tend to want to make everything public. So, but in the reputation system that I'm planning on developing for Hive, there will be ability to do anonymous things there. Maybe some of that can come back into downvotes and upvotes, but I'm not at all sure that'll be true. So long story short, I don't really know of a good way to do that at the moment with votes. Maybe we'll get some useful research and development out of the reputation system that might allow that, but I can't figure out how to do it right now any simple way. So probably not something we'll address soon. Issue with Hive nodes. Okay, this was just a stability issue. I think we had most of this, I think, really revolves down to NEX.io, which was kind of the number 2 node after api.hive.blog in terms of service. And this was an issue where the libraries weren't able to properly detect that the node was out of date, and therefore it was serving bad data. So there's twofold issue to this. One, NEX is fixing his node, so that will no longer be happening. And the second thing we could potentially do is have a better ability for basically the library should start detecting not only if they're getting errors too often, but also report if the head block is too old. And there's already been a discussion on this in Mattermost, and I think some of the library guys are already planning to do this for their libraries. So that's an ongoing discussion, I guess, between the library managers or how they're going to want to handle it. I think some are talking about integrating PeakD as a method, PeakD's method, but I mean, information is directly available as an API call for the head block recency. So this is a relatively trivial thing for the libraries to do. But beyond that, there's also the issue of not only detecting that a API is behind, but more importantly, how this information is then reported to the user and what gets done about it. So there's 2 sort of ways I can see this happening. One is the UI can simply start informing the user that the API that he's currently using is reporting old data, and does he want to switch to a new one? Or his UI could also just be configured to automatically switch over between his selected set of API nodes. So obviously this is up to both the library guys and the UI guys as to which choices they want to make in that regard. In the past, I've seen BitShares had this issue, and the way they did it was it would display. It would initially select from a bunch of nodes that you had set based on which ones seem to be working best, and then after that, if it would inform you actually what node that you were using, and it would also show the sort of health status of that node. And so if you then wanted to change it, you could click on that or whatever and select a different node. And I think that's a fairly reasonable system as far as how to do it. So I think the biggest question from a UI perspective is, do we actually show the node, or do we just show the status of the node? Personally, I'm kind of in favor of actually showing the status of the name of the node itself, because I think it's a nice advertisement for the node. But I understand that the UI guys might not want to leave that much space on their UI dedicated to that. So again, it's ultimately up to the UI guys. But if anybody wants to discuss the pros and cons of those two approaches, feel free to jump in here.
But couldn't it be implemented at the proxy level, meaning the proxy like Juicy or
it can, but then, so yeah, if you want to, I mean, for instance, at api.hive.blog, we don't have one hive mind, we have 3 hive minds.
Yeah.
So you can certainly have flipping around between those, and that's all something that can be done behind the scenes. But that's purely up to the guy running his node, how he does it. But there's this more, I'm talking about the question above that, which is, you've decided to trust this particular set of nodes, and there's now the information of which node you're getting the data from, and what's the status of that node. Because even if you have 3 hive mind nodes, all 3 of them behind a proxy, all 3 of them could be reporting old data. That can happen, right? Because if it's a bug that it hits all 3 hive minds, they're all going to have old data.
But that's only not only hive mind. That's hive mind, and there are calls that are routed to Hive-D. So you could have an hive mind node running, but not your Hive-D one.
Well, sure. I mean, right. So it's all part of the status report, right? Your status should be able to report hive mind status and Hive-D status both.
So it would be cool if we could have a network.
I mean, I think you can get that now.
Proxies.
I believe that both those information should be available now. I think you can get to check the Hive-D. You do get info that'll get you the head block of the Hive-D, and there's a health check that reports the recency of the data from the hive mind. So I'm pretty sure both those pieces of information are available now via API.
But my idea is to have a network of proxies. Then we
no. I mean, we're again a decentralized platform, and it's for the front end to manage its APIs. Because if API operators will be using fallbacks on their Juicy or equivalent, then we might end up in a way like I will set up my Juicy to fail over to your node, and you will set your node to fail over to my node. But in the end, if there are only 2 of our nodes and we both fail, we are failing. So the front end should choose different nodes and should know what it is routing to.
Yeah, I mean,
if you hide it behind Juicy, you can't tell which node you are relying to.
Well, I mean, okay, so I see this as a two-point issue. One, you absolutely can redirect your traffic, and API node users API operators do it. We all know it, and it's okay, but it just doesn't solve this problem. Like Gandalf has just pointed out, the real problem is you have to know if the data you're getting is old or not, and the front end has to make that decision, has to report that. No amount of hiding can solve that problem. If all the hive mind nodes have old data, the front ends have to report that the data is old. So what you're saying, Archange, as far as having proxies, you can do that, and it's doable today, and it's done today, but it's not going to solve this problem.
Yeah, that's 2 different issues. One, reporting data obsolescence or not, and then availability.
Yeah. So the problem, I mean, the specific problem that caused this was that one of the second largest node API node provider for the API for the front ends was down. The data wasn't redirected. He could have redirected it, but he didn't know about it, so he wasn't redirecting it. And the front ends simply weren't reporting that the data was old. So, I mean, the real solution here should have been that the front end should report the data is old. And I say front end, but that's front end plus the library. Either one of both can do this, right? It's either one has the option.
Yeah.
So, but it definitely is something that needs to be done. I don't think anyone's arguing about that too much. Okay. Any more comments on this issue? Okay. I think we hit pretty much the end of topics. Howell, you had something written up here about move dev meeting 1 hour ahead.
Yeah, the idea is so since we basically this was decided so that we could have pretty much in the start of the day for EST and still be on late night for Asia, but we never really got any interest from people from Asia. So in the interest of having the West Coast people in the US, we could move it 1 hour ahead so that it's not as early as it is right now. Because I think for Crimson Cloud, it's like...
Okay, so when you say 1 hour ahead, you mean 1 hour later.
Oh, yeah.
Because you were really confusing me there for a second.
You know,
I understand.
Yeah.
Not French. Okay, yeah. I'm more than on board with that personally, but I don't know how other people feel, so I'll let other people chime in on that.
Big thing was
because I get up late.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the
I had to set my alarm this morning because I was up till 4, and I had to set my alarm for 10, and I wasn't happy.
Yeah, so, yeah, I feel like everyone. I'm European, so I don't really care, and I feel like everyone is on board with this. And
okay, anybody in the meeting who would have trouble with pushing it out an hour? Okay, Crimson Cloud says.
Yeah, she says she's fine with it.
Okay.
I'm okay with it.
Okay, Arcane is good.
No, I'm joking. Okay, cool. That was for sure the longest. But that's great. I feel like we've had quite a good feedback everywhere.
Okay, so we just talking about pushing in an hour, I guess. Yeah, 1 hour. Okay, so that would be 12 o'clock my time. Yeah, sounds great. Okay.
What do you mean, Sergio, moving switch from time to time?
I think he just means he doesn't want to have it always at the same time.
Yeah, because it's not always easy for me to join. And if we can try different times, maybe this time, 1 hour later, 1 hour before, it will be easier for me to join at least on some of the meeting.
Yeah, I think that's certainly possible. I would go one step further that I can say, well, we could start trying this 12 o'clock time. I'm going to use my time for easy reference for myself. Then we could also, we could be flexible. So if somebody wants to change the time, we don't have to, it doesn't have to be fixed at the time. It's just as long as we have some advance warning, I think we can still be flexible in the time somewhat.
Yeah, I agree with that, Kenj. It's assuming that we want to do live streams and get an actual. I mean, it's better to have the same time all the time, so that people can not be surprised, because not everyone is as involved as we are. So I feel like getting an hour ahead and pushing an hour or two ahead or back is the most we should move it.
Yeah, it looks like Crimson Cloud is saying the date's the big thing. So she would like to have more advanced notice of the dates, which I think makes a lot of sense. Especially maybe we can just schedule a bunch of them out.
Yeah, that's what we've been doing. I think the next one is already scheduled actually.
Where are they scheduled at? Because I don't know where they're at.
It's in 2 weeks basically. It's
in what?
I mean, I didn't schedule it as in created actual events, but I set the dates for till February, aka 18 and 1st.
Okay, well, I guess she means somewhere written down. She can see them, not in your head.
I mean, my head is good.
Your head's fine, but we can't read it yet.
Yet. Yeah, I also need to work on getting an announcement ahead so people can actually make comments. But yeah.
Okay, so I'd say feed the dates to her, to Crimson Cloud, and then once we get that, and then of course make announcements as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Looks like she'll manage announcing them.
Okay. Well, thanks. Yeah, I think we can finish this by chat anyways. But yeah, everyone okay for 18th for the next one? 18th of January.
Yeah, it's fine for me.
Okay, great. Okay, well, that's it, I think, unless someone has anything else to bring up. Okay, great. Okay, well, wish you all a good morning, evening, whatever, and see you around.
Thanks. See you guys.
You all, bye.
See you. Bye.
Bye.